Yes.
My name is Akol Comfort from the Kapilipin District, Karamoja region. Senior here student at St. Joseph Senior Secondary School, Nangalama. I participated in the Karamoja Women and Girls Conference 2022 organized by Usawa Franchise, a women-led organization in Karamoja region. And I took part into different debates on topical issues affecting Karamoja region. These different debates were managed by the National Debate Council, and it is through these debates that I got this opportunity to participate in the national competition. In the national competition organized by the National Debate Council, we were required to either compose songs, write poems, draw art pieces, or interview someone of high profile on issues concerning transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption. And it is through that I chose to interview Honorable Lady Justice Frances Abodo. I am honored and very humbled to interview Honorable Lady Justice Frances Abodo.
I'm humbled too. Thank you.
Honorable Lady Justice Abodo, I have been longing to see you. You inspire me so much, and I wish to walk in your footsteps.
Yeah.
Honorable Lady Justice, could you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Thank you so much, and I feel really humbled as well that you picked me out of all your list, and it puts me on so much pressure because now I have to continue inspiring you and many others. And thank you for picking me. And I am also from Karamoja. I'm from Napak district, but married in Nakapipri district. And so we are from the same district. And my name is Jane Frances Abodo. I'm the Director of Public Prosecutions. And basically, I manage prosecutions, criminal prosecutions in the country. That's out. Yes. In brief, that's what I do.
Well, our discussion today is mainly focusing on transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption, and mainly on the health and judicial sectors.
Okay.
Well, let's jump right straight to our first question. We have heard of words and statements like corruption, transparency, and accountability. What's the meaning of these words for a lay person outside there and young persons outside there like me?
Okay. We start with corruption. Corruption is really, in simple terms, it's dishonesty. That's how simple I can mention it. It's just dishonesty. When someone is dishonest, then someone is corrupt. That's basic. Transparency, on the other hand, is being open, being honest. You know, that is transparency. That you can actually, there's nothing to hide. Everything is in the open. And then accountability is, it is like acceptance of responsibility. That you actually did something and you say, yes, I did it and I'm sorry about it. You see, that's accepting responsibility when you've done something. Or it is also a willingness to accept. That is accountability. So when you look at the three words, corruption, transparency, and accountability, they are always like coined. They almost like are said always in the same statement. It is because of the meaning that they carry. That it is about, if they say someone is corrupt, someone is dishonest, and someone is not transparent, someone doesn't account, which means that it is basically that the person's integrity is an issue. You see, because corruption all comes out because someone's integrity is questionable. So when you are talking about these three words, it is just around openness, it's around willingness to accept responsibility. It's about, corruption is just about dishonesty. That's how I can give you the three words.
Well, now we understand.
Yes.
But for us outside there in schools,
yes,
a corrupt person, like in our way of terming a corrupt person, we call a corrupt person a wretched person, a person who cannot tell you of the way they have used a certain amount of money, a person who doesn't do their things in the right way. And in schools, like in most schools, corruption manifests in a way like that. A parent can give money like to a matron, and then the matron gives preferential treatment to one student than the other, then the treatment is
And
not
that's
fair.
corruption.
Yeah.
That's corruption. It has so many levels. It even starts right from nursery.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is, you're very, very right. Yes. It has all those levels.
Well, we now understand.
Yes.
Corruption is said to be systemic in a way that it has entered into the systems of operation. It has become a syndicate of cartels, or let me say, a group of people within the operations of the health sector whose job is to get kickbacks in order for services to be delivered. For example, you try to tell the doctors not to take bribes, but the patients they themselves are willing to give the doctors bribes in order to get services faster. How does the office try to handle this kind of systemic and syndicated corruption? Because it now looks like corruption has entered into the blood vessels of Ugandans.
You've actually put it so well when you talk about systemic, when you talk about corruption entering into it, it is in the systems, and almost we almost in courts think it is a normal thing. That's why when someone comes for a service and you tell them it's not possible, and they think, okay, I think they want to be given a bribe. You see that kind of thing. So you have put it so well. And it is really true that corruption is now in every sphere. Like when you look at, you have mentioned health, it is in education, it is in politics, it's literally everywhere. Even in our institutions, we have corruption, and both perceived and real. Perceived corruption, and each institution should strive not to have any of them, whether it is perceived. Perceived corruption is where people perceive. Like, for instance, I take an example of, I have a file, a police file on my desk, and I take long to read it. It stays on my desk 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. What do you think the other person who is waiting for that justice is saying? Must be saying, I think the DPP wants a bribe. That's why she's not reading. Yet, I actually, either I have just forgotten to read about it, or I have so much work that I have not gotten time, or I'm just lazy to read it. So you see, so they perceive, people now perceive that maybe you want to be paid so that you can read that file. And of course, actual corruption is the actual corruption. I follow you, I tell you, can you give me something in order for me to read your file? I have so many files on my desk. For me to be able to fasten yours and make a decision quickly, please pay me. So that's actual corruption. So as an office, we handle both. We are also in the fight against corruption. We have so many institutions, but we have a number of stakeholders we work with that we fight corruption, because corruption, like you said, it is systematic, it is endemic, like it is beyond a pandemic. Yeah. You see, eh? So you find that not one institution can fight it. You must work together with so many others. We work together with Auditor General, we work together with the Inspectorate of Government, we work together with what is that? Day is the what is that? The Ministry of Ethics and Integrity. We work together with them, the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity. We work together with police, definitely. We work together with judiciary, work together with prisons. So we have a number of people that we work with. So many. So what we do is that we make sure that our work doesn't conflict, that our work complements each other. Because if you find also that so many organizations or institutions are actually fighting corruption and they are not moving at the same pace, you'll find that the corrupt will actually take advantage of the differences between the different institutions. If I don't know what IG is doing and then what police are doing, definitely then, which means we are all uncoordinated, and then corruption of course wins at the end of the day. So as our office, our office handles all criminal cases including corruption. And the difference between our office and the Inspectorate of Government is that Inspectorate of Government, they handle corruption of public officials and private individuals, and we can also charge companies for corruption. So what we do is that we instruct police if there's any if corruption is reported. Maybe we get it, most of the time we get it from whistleblowers. Sometimes we get it from people who just come to report directly and say, I have this corruption which I've seen maybe in an health sector, maybe a particular doctor as in his clinic as drugs which are for government, not for sale, for Uganda government, and then we start off from there. And sometimes we even get it from the media. You see, this corruption, we get it from the media. Now with technology, it is more and more, we actually get more on the media. Then we instruct police to do investigations, and we don't only handle corruption of public officials, private individuals, companies, but we also handle internally, because they are also our staff who are reported to be corrupt. So we have in place a committee. It is called the Rewards and Sanctions Committee, where we actually, if a case is reported against our staff, if the staff is investigated, if we find that there is evidence against them, we recommend that they're actually charged. And we have a number of staff that we are prosecuting our own. We actually take cases to court. So that's the bit that we do on the fight against corruption. And you must have had the anti-corruption, the existence of anti-corruption court.
Yes.
Yes, we have our whole department there. Yes, we have our department there of about 16 lawyers. They handle corruption cases.
Well, government employee absenteeism is a widespread problem in the health sector.
Yeah.
This is a silent killer that citizens are not aware of as a form of corruption, but they feel the pinch. Citizens are not aware of it, but government is losing billions of money. Because doctors and nurses steal the government drugs, absent from work, and in the end they are paid salaries, and yet they have done no work, entering the government into big losses. What's your take on absenteeism as a form of corruption? And are there legal safeguards to this vice? In other words, are there laws that will help us end it? Because like in areas like Eastern Uganda, according to the recent report released by the IG on the cost and the extent of corruption in the health sector, Eastern Uganda is leading with 12%. And it is leading with 12%, meaning there is really nothing really being done there. And Honorable Lady Justice, it might even be worse in Karamoja region because of its remoteness.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I want to agree with you also on the issue, like you stated in your opening statement very, very wisely, that corruption is so widespread that sometimes we see some things and we do not look at it as corruption. Like what you have mentioned now, absenteeism is, you have correctly said, it is a form of corruption, and I totally want to agree with you that it's a form of corruption. Why? Because we said, remember our definition of corruption, our simple definition of corruption. We said corruption was dishonesty, which means you are a government employee. Government employs you and pays you a salary at the end of every month. On 28th of every month, you're paid a salary. If you're not going to be working, let's say in moreover only 20 days, it is just 20 days in a month. If you spend 15 days not working at all and you actually only work for 5 days, which means at the end of the month, 28th, you're receiving full salary. Government doesn't deduct that you did not work for 15 days. So that is dishonesty. And for me, I agree with you that it falls squarely under the realm of corruption. That's another form of corruption. So and also stealing government drugs. Sometimes we say that we should not look at we should look at more the cost of corruption. When I say the cost of corruption, I want to use an example which is, let's say, in Karamoja. you have a doctor who is in charge of the DHO, in charge of the hospital, and then the drugs are brought by government. The drugs are brought. Yeah, actually, the hospital is stocked. He has a clinic somewhere outside Karamoja, or even within Karamoja. What does he do? He takes away all these drugs which have been stocked by government, takes them away. And maybe in his clinic, some drugs were getting expired, he brings them and replaces them there. People walk, you're given an example of Karamoja. People walk for kilometers to get to health center. You can imagine that they walk for kilometers to get to health center, sometimes over 50 kilometers. When they reach there, they either tell you the drugs are not there, government does not brought drugs, or you're actually treated but on expired drugs, and you know the effect of that. You're either not treated, or if you get expired drugs, it all comes down to one thing: it can lead to death. Worst case, it can lead to death. So that's why I'm saying we should be looking at the cost of corruption, because it is huge. You can just be there as a nurse, people come, they need treatment, and you ignore them. People sleep there on the veranda the whole day. By the end of the day, maybe someone else comes, another nurse comes now to treat, and you find that it's actually too late, and you can lose someone. We don't know how many people we lose every other day because either a nurse or a doctor is absent, or someone is given wrong medication, or someone is actually not given any treatment at all. So that's all corruption, which I am very happy that is coming from you young people, because we have always said that the young people should be involved in this fight. Yes. Because at the beginning I told you that corruption is about integrity. It's about integrity. So if you young people are involved at a young age, you're in senior 3, if you have those clubs which so that you churn anything that is about corruption, you grow up knowing that it is bad. But if you grow up admiring people who have so much money because they are corrupt, in the end, even in the village, the people can laugh at you and say, your children, because they are not corrupt, of course, then they don't have much. Then the other family, the children are so corrupt and they have everything. They drive the latest cars they have. So you find that even society starts to imagine that the corrupt are actually better than you. Yeah. That is a distortion. So that's what we want. We are so happy that the young people should be joined in the fight against corruption, because I'm thinking that that's when we shall actually tackle it from the roots. Instead, because what my office does is almost like postmortem. You arrest the people who have been corrupt, and then you prosecute them. But if we start with you, like how you're doing now, which means we shall raise a generation who value their integrity, and who have values of saying, I have to be accountable. If government has given me this job, at the end of the month, when I'm receiving my salary, I should not feel guilty because I have worked for it. Even if you're not working with the government, even if you're working with an NGO, they need results. So that's why we say I am very happy that it's actually coming from you.
Okay, well, we got safeguards, or are there laws you people have put in place to fight against corruption?
Yes, we actually have a number of laws. Before 2009, we had sections on corruption. The corruption sections were scattered all over in about over 10 different laws. But in 2009, government came and decided that let's have all the sections talking about corruption into one act, and the Anti-Corruption Act was made. So now we have one act that we can refer to. It's called the Anti-Corruption Act. And even government went ahead, not only putting the act into place, but also a court. We have the Anti-Corruption Court, which is dedicated to handle corruption cases. When it started, I want to say that when it started, I was posted there by the then DPP. I was posted there asked to head the unit of state attorney. So I was the head there, and I headed that place for about 10 years. And when we started off in 2009, 2010, all the cases that came there, we got convictions. which means people were convicted, people were made to pay a lot of money, people were sent to prison. So we have the laws, we have the Anti-Corruption Act, it has been amended, we have the Anti-Money Laundering Act, and all these acts, several acts. We have even the IGG, they have an act. We have the Leadership Fraud Act. Now we have the tribunal that can handle leaders who don't account. Accountability. We have the act, the tribunal, which actually handles those cases. So we have enough laws in place to handle this monster called corruption. But I think it is just us to implement and also to look at a bit of asset recovery. You know, corruption is motivated by the profit that people get.
Yes.
So if, God forbid, you're found to be corrupt and they take away what you got, what didn't belong to you, you got dishonestly, they remove it from you. We feel that creates that sort of like it is a pinch for the corrupt. They wouldn't want to lose their properties, their properties, because really it is not theirs. They have got it in a dishonest way. If you take it away from them, they'll feel the pinch more than when you just send them to prison. Then their families remain running the businesses. After 10 years, they come out of prison. They find even the business has even grown. Yes. So that's what we have, many laws in place.
Well, you've reminded me about something.
Yes.
You have said within that period of time money was convicted. Now, like, let me say these health workers who don't do their work and then they are taken and then they have been told to return back the money that they stole from government.
Yes.
Well, money has been recovered back, but still, when you go to most of these health facilities, you find there is poor infrastructure, there are no drugs, doctors are not there. In these health facilities, yes, a good health facility has to have running throughout to find no water, places stinking, places dirty. What's your say on that?
I think it still goes to largely that actually government has given. We have people coming out of medical school every other day. We have so many institutions that are bringing out nurses every other day. So you find that sometimes people actually choose not to go to certain areas and work there, when government has put in place structures, has put in place even the human resource, but they just don't like maybe to work in a particular place, maybe because it's too remote. So you find that they are there maybe once in a while, and yet people are there and they need the services at the end of the day. So I am just thinking that what we should get out to do is to do more monitoring. If we have a hospital like Moroto Hospital, and they're supposed to be, you posted there are 4 doctors. So people in the field of the health sector, they should be able to get away of maybe quarterly, maybe half yearly, to just monitor and go and see that the doctors we posted there, are they there and are they working? You know, pay visits which are not announced, so that you find people and see, are they really working? Because you'll be so shocked. And when people know that our bosses come to actually check whether we are working, you might find that people actually can become consistent and start working, because they know. But if they know that once you're posted there, they don't even follow up whether you're reported. Sometimes they post you and 6 months someone has not even reported, and yet they're receiving salary at the end of the day, even allowances. Yeah, so that's I think it just takes us to become more vigilant and do more monitoring and evaluation.
Thank you.
Yes.
There are several government anti-corruption institutions or organizations like the Inspectorate of Government,
Yes.
Office of the Auditor General,
Yes.
Anti-Corruption Court, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, and so many others. How are you working hand in hand with these organizations to fight and end corruption in Uganda?
Like I told you, fighting corruption is a syndicated offense.
Yes.
Which means it is like syndicated in terms of even the way that they now, and by the way, corruption, the grand corruption, is not committed by your dirty colored criminal. Very intelligent people are the ones who commit this offense of corruption and the grand corruption. So they are super intelligent. They use the technology to commit this offense.
Yes.
So that's why we came together as anti-corruption agencies. We are almost 20. We have come together. We meet quarterly just to take a way forward, because the criminals meet and plan.
Yes, it's true.
Yes. So why not us who are trying to fight it? So we actually meet together and we chat a way forward and we say, how do we move forward? And when you look at it, it's us who do the prosecution. We also do asset recovery. And when we send these people to prison, we also want these people at the end of the day, how are they treated at the prison? You see, do we get value for money? Because there is taxpayers' money going there to feed those people in prison. So we should be, that's why we sometimes we work smart and we say, if we get someone who has maybe stolen money, and the person is willing to pay back the money, and you check them with the lesser offense, because we don't have the enough human resource to prosecute all the cases. If we are actually to prosecute all the cases, we will fail because there's so many. So we do some kind of selection. The cases which are public interest, the cases which have lots of money, we prosecute them. But there are other cases which are like, they're not really they're not public interest, and the person can actually pay, and you say that they go away with a lighter offense. We do that so that at least at the end of the day, we are actually getting back some money at the end of the day.
That's good. Well, let's move on. Since your appointment into this office, what would you cite as your major achievements in this area of transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption?
I came to office in April of 2020. It was during the lockdown.
Yes.
And before I was appointed a DPP, I worked here.
Yes.
Well, yes, I was here for 19 years as a prosecutor, crossed through the ranks, and when I came back, I just continued from where my predecessors had stopped. And that is how do we contribute? How do I, as a person, because I don't work alone.
Yes.
I work through my staff. So legal, I have about 306 legal staff, lawyers, and then I have almost about 500 non-legal staff, the ones who help us, and all the two categories are all very important for the institution to run. And the mandate of the DPP is really to prosecute all criminal cases in the country, and corruption cases are part of the story of the criminal cases. So I would say that ever since we came, when we look at we worked smarter during lockdown, because then we decided now to start doing like case review and picking out only the cases we thought are really good for taking to court. And I must say that during the 3 years that I've been in office at the anti-corruption court, our conviction rate went higher. I think now we are at 80%. We're at 80% in those cases. So I would say that it is not really that directly me that I do it together with my staff, and it's a concerted effort. So no one person can say, yes, I actually achieved it all alone, because I can't achieve all alone. I can't. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
According to the recent report released by the Inspectorate of Government on the cost and extent of corruption in Uganda, statistics show that 762.9 billion has been lost while bribing the issue of issues. This has an implication on the dispensation of justice to the citizens, especially the ordinary citizens. What's your say on that?
It is first of all unfortunate because I consider justice. Justice is supposed to be a commodity that everyone
Yes.
is entitled to, and people of Uganda, everyone is entitled to justice at some point, and it should not be sold.
Yes.
Because government pays my salary. When people come here and they're not supposed to give me any money at all, or any of my officers any money at all, because government pays us the salary. Judicial officers, government pays them the salary. They are also not supposed to be given any money by people who go for justice. So that's why I say it is very sad that justice gets to be sold, because then most of the time the people who need justice most are really the person deep down in the village there who cannot afford a lawyer. That's why every especially criminal cases, these cases are against the state, which means the state is done which is aggrieved, which means you don't have to pay. The state actually can handle their own cases. That's why when you report a case, if you are assaulted, God forbid, we actually you become like a complainant.
Yes.
We use you as a witness. You don't say it is my case. No, it's now the state case. So it is very sad that justice is sold at the end of the day, and that's what we are trying to fight. Even judiciary is trying to fight that, and you find that most of the time that this corruption is also perceived. It's also actual in some cases. And you find that people are using the name maybe of a judge. That the judge asked me to get money from you, or someone uses my name, that the DPP, by the way, as your file. So if you want, and it may just be someone even who knows me so well, who has access to the file and has seen the decision I've made, goes to the other person and say, if you want the DPP to make the decision to your maybe then she says give me this amount of money. So in actual fact, bottom line, really, justice should be given free.
Well, about the 762.9 billion that has been lost to Ugandan judicial officials, have you got a way of trying to recover this money, and is there a way you are giving proper justice to those who are not given justice?
Now the problem with the 700, it could even be higher. It could even be higher. Most of the time, when such people are arrested and they're public officials, they're interdicted immediately. And once they're interdicted, then definitely they're prosecuted. If the prosecution, and sometimes even they're prosecuted and they're actually acquitted, which means the case is not found against them, they can actually go back to office. You see, because of the criminal nature. I don't know how I can explain it so that you understand that in criminal law, you must prove the case. The standard is very, very high.
Yes.
It is said you must prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So most times, we do not reach that standard. So people get, even if they're guilty, they go off the hook. So in most cases, that money is not even recovered in most cases. But a number of officials are prosecuted and they lose their jobs. If they're convicted, actually, if they're found to that they have actually taken a bribe, then they're dismissed from the public service. So we could say they lose at least they lose their jobs.
That's good. Before we wind up the interview, I would like you to say a word or two to the young people out there, the torchbearers of the future, the leaders of tomorrow, in order to have a corrupt-free Uganda in years to come.
Perfect. I want to